The emergency meeting chamber of the Galactic Council buzzed with nervous energy. Representatives from 47 different species filled the circular room, their varied forms creating a tapestry of colors, sounds, and smells. At the center of the chamber, a holographic display showed a small yellow star in a forgotten corner of the galaxy. Captain Threnix of the Kryn Collective stood before the council, his blue-scaled body still bearing the scars of his recent encounter. His ship, the Wandering Eye, floated in repair docks above the council world, held together by emergency patches and prayer. Of his crew of 30, only 12 survived. Honorable members, Threnix began, his voice translator struggling to keep up with his rapid speech. I stand before you today to deliver a warning that may save countless lives across the galaxy. Counselor Brenda of the Peaceful Assembly leaned forward. Her species, the Kormali, were known for their diplomatic nature and endless patience. Captain, your distress call was most disturbing. Please tell us what happened in the Sol system. Threnix activated his personal data pad. The holographic display shifted, showing images of a blue and green planet. This is Earth. It orbits the third position from its star. Our initial scans suggested it was a Class 5 death world, gravity 20% higher than galactic standard, atmospheric oxygen levels that would be toxic to most species, extreme weather patterns, active tectonic plates, but we thought it was uninhabited. And it wasn't? Asked Counselor Zektar, his insectoid features clicking with curiosity. It was very much inhabited, Threnix replied, his scales darkening with remembered fear. By a species that calls themselves humans. We detected their radio signals first, simple electromagnetic broadcasts, the kind that young civilizations send into space without understanding the danger. We thought they were primitives, perhaps a few centuries away from understanding faster than light travel. The captain pulled up more images, ships, stations, satellites, structures on their moon, mining operations in an asteroid belt. They have spread throughout their system like no species we have ever documented. In just 70 years, they went from splitting the atom to colonizing their neighboring worlds. A murmur ran through the council chamber. Several species shifted uncomfortably. That kind of expansion rate was unheard of. We approached peacefully, Threnix continued. We followed all first contact protocols. We broadcast messages of friendship in mathematical sequences. We maintained a distance of 3 astronomical units from their homeworld. We did everything by the book. What happened? Brenda asked softly. They destroyed us, Threnix said flatly. Not immediately. Not with warning. They simply destroyed us. We detected weapons fire from their moon. Projectiles. Simple kinetic weapons, we thought. Nothing our shields couldn't handle. We were wrong. The holographic display showed footage from the Wandering Eye's last moments in the Sol system. Bright flashes, ships exploding, debris spinning through the void. The projectiles were moving at 40% of light speed. They punched through our shields like they weren't even there. 3 of our ships were destroyed in the first salvo. We tried to retreat, but they had more weapons everywhere. Their space stations fired on us. Their asteroid mining facilities fired on us. Even their cargo ships fired on us. Everything they built had weapons hidden inside it. Counselor Vrentok of the Merchant Guild spoke up. Surely there was some misunderstanding. Perhaps they thought you were hostile? Threnix laughed bitterly. We broadcast on all frequencies that we were peaceful. We showed them mathematical proofs of our intentions. They responded with a simple message in our own language. Leave our system or be destroyed. They had broken our encryption codes in minutes. Minutes. It took our best scientists 3 cycles to crack their most basic security. The chamber fell silent. The implications were staggering. There's more, Threnix said, his voice dropping. While we were running, I accessed their public information networks. They have thousands of years of recorded history. And do you know what that history is? War, constant, endless war. They have fought each other for resources, for land, for ideas, for gods that don't exist. They have invented thousands of ways to kill each other. They created weapons so terrible that they nearly destroyed themselves multiple times. He pulled up translated documents, images that made several council members look away. They split atoms to create bombs. They engineered diseases. They invented gases that melt lungs. They built machines that can think and designed them to kill. And this is what they did to each other, to their own species. Surely they have grown past such barbarism, suggested Counselor Marleth, though her voice wavered with doubt. They have nuclear weapons pointed at their own cities, Threnix replied. Right now. As we speak. They call it mutually assured destruction. The idea is that if everyone can destroy everyone else, no one will start a war. This is how they keep peace among themselves. The council chamber erupted in shocked conversation. Such a concept was alien to most species present. The idea of threatening your own species with annihilation as a peace strategy seemed insane. Threnix waited for the noise to die down. Honorable Council, I recommend immediate quarantine of the Sol system. No ships should approach within 10 light years. We should mark it as a forbidden zone and wait. Perhaps in a few thousand cycles, they will have evolved into something less dangerous. Before anyone could respond, the chamber doors opened. A figure strode in without invitation, flanked by armed guards in gleaming black armor. The newcomer was tall and broad, his crimson skin marked with scars of honor. He wore the insignia of the Zalthoran Empire. I am General Caxtor, the figure announced, Special Envoy of Emperor Vexcarian, ruler of the Zalthoran Empire. I've been listening to this discussion and I must say I am disappointed in all of you. Counselor Brenda stood. General, this is a closed council session. You have no authority here. The Empire has authority everywhere, Caxtor replied coldly, and the Empire does not cower before primitives who have barely learned to leave their own world. Threnix's scales flushed with anger. General, I lost 18 crew members in that system. These humans are not primitives. They are predators. Everything about their world made them into killers, and they have refined that skill over millennia. Caxtor laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. Captain, the Zalthoran Empire has conquered 372 worlds. We have subjugated species that could manipulate gravity, read minds, and walk through walls. You expect me to fear a species that still uses projectile weapons? They use those weapons very effectively, Threnix shot back. Then they will be no match for the Empire's fleet. Caxtor turned to address the entire council. The Emperor has decided. The Sol system falls within a sector we claim as our territory. These humans will be given one chance to surrender and join the Empire as a subject species. If they refuse, they will be eliminated. Counselor Brenda stood again. General, the Galactic Council strongly advises against this action. We have protocols for contact with emerging civilizations. This species is clearly dangerous and should be approached with extreme caution. The Council can advise all it wishes, Caxtor replied. The Empire will do what it has always done. We will bring order to chaos. These humans will learn to kneel or they will learn to die. You don't understand, Threnix pleaded. Their entire civilization is built around conflict. They have entertainment based on war. They write stories about fighting aliens. They have prepared for this moment for generations. It's in their culture, their art, their very bones. Going to Earth is walking into a trap. Caxtor turned his cold gaze on the captain. The only trap is the one of cowardice you have fallen into. You met them with a handful of scout ships. The Empire will meet them with a fleet. There is a difference. How large a fleet? Asked Counselor Zektar quietly. The 7th Conquest Fleet, Caxtor announced proudly. 200 warships under the command of Fleet Commander Zelthar, the hero of the Koran campaign. It is more than enough firepower to glass a planet. We are bringing it to make a statement. You're bringing it to die, Threnix said quietly. Caxtor's face darkened. Watch your tongue, Captain, or you will find yourself in an Empire detention cell. The Emperor has spoken. The fleet departs in 2 cycles, and when we return, it will be with news of the Empire's 373rd conquered world. The general turned and strode from the chamber, his guards following close behind. The council sat in stunned silence. Finally, Counselor Brenda spoke. Captain Threnix, we thank you for your warning. The council will send official notification to the Empire advising against this action. It won't matter, Threnix said, exhaustion evident in his voice. The Empire hasn't lost a battle in 3,000 years. They think they're invincible. Perhaps they are, suggested Counselor Marleth. Threnix looked at the holographic image of Earth, still rotating slowly at the center of the chamber. That beautiful, terrible blue world. No, he said softly. I don't think the Empire is invincible, but I also don't think they understand what they're about to face. Those humans, they scared me more than anything I've ever encountered, and I've been exploring space for 30 years. What scared you most? Asked Brenda. Threnix was quiet for a long moment. When we were running, I intercepted one of their military communications. A human commander was giving orders to his fleet. And do you know what he said? He said, remember, if they can bleed, we can kill them. That's when I understood. These humans don't see the universe as a place to explore and make friends. They see it as a place full of potential threats, and they're very, very good at eliminating threats. The council sat in uncomfortable silence. Outside the chamber, the Zalthoran transport was already preparing to leave, carrying General Caxtor back to the Empire's core worlds. Within 2 cycles, the largest military fleet in the galaxy would begin its journey to an insignificant yellow star. None of them knew it yet, but Captain Threnix was right about one thing. The Empire was walking into a trap. Not a trap set deliberately by the humans, but a trap of the Empire's own making. A trap built from arrogance, from 3,000 years of never meeting an equal, from the belief that military might could solve any problem. Earth was waiting, and Earth had been preparing for this moment since the first human looked up at the stars and wondered what lived out there. They had wondered, and they had planned, and they had built weapons that could challenge the gods themselves. The Galactic Council could only watch and hope that somehow both sides would survive what was coming. But hope seemed like a fragile thing in the face of humanity's capacity for violence and the Empire's infinite arrogance. The meeting adjourned. The warning had been given. It had been ignored. Now all they could do was wait for news from the Sol system and pray that it wouldn't be the beginning of a galactic war that would consume them all. Fleet Commander Zelthar stood on the bridge of the Imperial Dominance, his flagship and the largest warship in the 7th Conquest Fleet. Around him, 200 ships maintained perfect formation as they dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Sol system. The yellow star burned in the distance, small and unremarkable. "Scan the system," Zelthar ordered. His second-in-command, Sub-Commander Relmak, worked the sensor station with practiced efficiency. "Multiple artificial structures detected," Relmak reported. "Satellites around the 3rd planet. A moon base. Stations in orbit. Mining operations in the asteroid belt between the 4th and 5th planets. Several outposts on the 4th planet's surface." Zelthar nodded. For primitives, they had certainly been busy. "Any ships?" 73 vessels of various sizes. Most appear to be cargo transports or mining ships. I'm detecting approximately 25 that could be military vessels. They're small, Commander. The largest is maybe 1/10 the size of our destroyers. The bridge crew chuckled. 25 military ships against 200 of the Empire's finest. This would be over quickly. "Open a communication channel," Zelthar commanded. "Let's see if these humans understand their situation." The communication officer worked his console. "Channel open, Commander. Broadcasting on all frequencies we've detected them using." Zelthar straightened, his voice taking on the formal tone of the Empire's diplomatic corps. "Attention, inhabitants of the Sol system. I am Fleet Commander Zelthar of the Zalthoran Empire. You have entered a period of galactic awareness. Your system falls within territory claimed by the Empire. You have one choice. Surrender peacefully and accept status as a protectorate species or be destroyed. You have one of your planetary rotations to decide. This is your only warning." They waited. For several minutes there was only silence. Then the communication system crackled to life. "This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Earth Combined Defense Force." The voice was female, calm, and utterly unafraid. "Your claim to our system is not recognized. This is humanity's home. We have lived here for 300,000 years. We will not surrender it because some empire decided they own everything. Leave now and no harm will come to you. Stay, and we will defend ourselves." The bridge crew fell silent. Relmak looked at Zelthar in disbelief. "Commander, did they just threaten us?" Zelthar felt a flicker of something he hadn't experienced in decades. Not quite fear, but something close. Respect, perhaps. Or caution. Bring up their transmission source. "Let me see this, Admiral Chen." The main view screen shifted. A human appeared. She was smaller than Zelthar had expected, with dark hair pulled back and skin the color of sand. But her eyes held something that made the commander pause. No fear, no uncertainty. Just cold calculation. "Admiral Chen," Zelthar said carefully, "you understand you are facing a fleet of 200 warships? We have weapons that can destroy your entire planet. Surrender is your only option." "Commander," Chen replied, "you understand you are in our home? We know every asteroid, every orbit, every hiding spot in this system. You're in our space, and we've been expecting someone like you for a very long time." Before Zelthar could respond, alarm klaxons blared across the bridge. Relmak's voice rose in surprise. "Commander!" "Weapons platforms are activating throughout the system. I'm counting. Hundreds of them. Thousands. They were hidden among the satellites and space debris. How did we miss them? Because they weren't active when you scanned, Admiral Chen said, still visible on the screen. They were cold, powered down, waiting. Just like we've been waiting. Last chance, Commander. Leave. Or learn why humanity has survived on a death world for 300,000 years. Zelthar felt anger replace his caution. How dare this primitive species threaten the Empire? All ships, battle formation. Shields to maximum. Target their military vessels. Commander, wait. Relmak began, but Zelthar cut him off. Fire. The Empire's fleet opened fire. Energy beams lanced through the void, targeting the human warships near Earth's moon. The Empire's weapons were powerful enough to shatter asteroids, to boil oceans, to crack continents. They struck the human vessels with devastating force, or rather they would have if the human ships had still been there. Evasive maneuvers, someone on the human frequency shouted. The small human ships moved with impossible speed, accelerating at rates that should have turned their crews into paste. They dodged and weaved through the weapons fire like fish in a stream. How are they moving like that? Relmak gasped. Those acceleration rates should kill them. Return fire detected, the weapons officer shouted. Projectile weapons incoming. Zelthar almost laughed. Projectiles? Against energy shields? But his laughter died when the first impacts hit. The Shield of Unity, a destroyer on the fleet's left flank, suddenly exploded. Simply exploded as if a star had been born inside it. Then another ship. Then 3 more in rapid succession. Shields are ineffective, the defense officer screamed. The projectiles are just going through them. They're solid matter moving at relativistic speeds. Our shields are designed for energy weapons. Zelthar stared in horror as the defensive formation began to crumble. The human weapons were simple in concept but devastating in execution. They were firing metal slugs accelerated to 40% of light speed. At those velocities, a chunk of metal the size of a fist hit with the force of a nuclear weapon. And the Empire's shields, designed to deflect energy beams and plasma, might as well have been paper. All ships, evasive action. Activate point defense systems, Zelthar ordered. But it was too late for many vessels. The humans had fired hundreds of projectiles in the first salvo, and they had calculated their trajectories perfectly. 23 Empire ships were destroyed or crippled in the first 30 seconds of battle. Where are those shots coming from? Zelthar demanded. Everywhere, Relmak replied, his hands flying across the sensor console. The moon, the orbital platforms, the space stations, even their cargo ships. Everything they built has weapons. Admiral Chen's face reappeared on the screen. She looked grimmer now, but not regretful. I warned you, Commander. We don't build anything in space that can't defend itself. When you live on a planet that's constantly trying to kill you, you learn to prepare for everything. Target their moon base, Zelthar roared. Maximum firepower. A dozen Empire ships turned their main weapons on Earth's moon. Energy beams powerful enough to vaporize mountains struck the human installations. Explosions bloomed across the gray surface. For a moment, Zelthar thought they had succeeded. Then the human railguns fired again, this time from Earth itself. The projectiles came up through the atmosphere, their trajectories calculated to account for gravity and air resistance. More Empire ships died. They're firing from their planet, the weapons officer said in disbelief. Through their own atmosphere. The heat, the friction. How are the projectiles surviving? Because we planned for it, Chen replied. We've run simulations of space combat for 100 years, Commander. We've written stories about fighting aliens since before we had rockets. We've imagined every possible scenario, and then we built weapons to match those scenarios. The battle raged around Jupiter's orbit, a chaotic mess of explosions and weapons fire. The Empire's ships tried to close distance, to use their superior shields and armor in close combat. But the humans refused to let them. Their small ships darted in and out of range, firing and retreating, using the gas giant's massive gravity well to slingshot themselves to incredible speeds. Sub-Commander, Zelthar said quietly, trying to control his rising panic, what are our casualties? Relmak's voice was hollow. 37 ships destroyed. 14 more heavily damaged and unable to fight. In 10 minutes of combat, we've lost more ships than we did in the entire Koran campaign. Zelthar made a decision. All ships fall back to the edge of the system. We need to regroup and reassess. Commander, the Empire doesn't retreat, his tactical officer objected. The Empire also doesn't lose 50 ships to primitives. Zelthar snapped. Fall back, now. The fleet began to withdraw, maintaining fire to cover their retreat. The human ships didn't pursue, but their long-range railguns continued to fire. 3 more Empire ships were destroyed before the fleet moved out of effective range. In the command center on Earth's moon, Admiral Chen watched the alien fleet retreat. Around her, her staff was cheering, celebrating the first victory. She didn't join them. There was no joy in her eyes. "Get me casualty reports from all stations," she ordered. "And someone tell me how many railgun rounds we have left." Her second-in-command, Commander James Park, stepped close. "Admiral, we did it. We drove them off. We surprised them," Chen corrected. "We hurt them. We made them cautious. But they're not gone, James. They're regrouping. And next time they'll be ready for our tactics." "We have more surprises," Park said confidently. "I hope so," Chen replied, staring at the tactical display where 200 hostile ships hung at the system's edge like a swarm of angry hornets. "Because they're going to call for reinforcements. And we just showed them we're not the easy target they thought we were. They won't underestimate us again." On the bridge of the Imperial Dominance, Zelthar was composing a message to the Emperor. His hands shook slightly as he recorded it. In his 3 decades of service in 47 conquered worlds, he had never sent a message like this. "Your Majesty," he began, "the situation in the Sol system is not what we anticipated. The humans are formidable. They possess weapons and tactics we have not encountered before. Our shields are ineffective against their kinetic weapons. They have militarized their entire system. Every structure, every vessel, everything they have built serves a dual purpose." He paused, considering his next words carefully. "I am requesting reinforcements. The 3rd and 9th fleets. I know this seems excessive for a single planet, but I have seen what these humans can do. They fight like they were born for it. Because I think they were. Their world made them into warriors, and they have refined that into an art form." Zelthar stopped the recording and looked out at the distant blue world where humanity had evolved. Such a beautiful planet from far away. But Captain Threnix had been right. It was a trap. Not a deliberate one, but a trap nonetheless. A trap built from 300,000 years of survival on a world that killed the weak. A trap built from thousands of years of human warfare, of adaptation, of learning to turn everything into a weapon. The Empire had walked into that trap with supreme confidence. Now Zelthar understood why the Galactic Council had been so afraid. These humans weren't primitives who would bow before superior technology. They were survivors who had learned to turn their enemies' strength against them. The fleet waited at the system's edge for new orders. On Earth, humanity prepared for the next round. Both sides knew this was far from over. The real war was just beginning. The message from Fleet Commander Zelthar reached Emperor Vexcarian 3 days later. The Emperor sat on his throne of black stone, watching the holographic recording with growing disbelief. Around him, his advisors shifted nervously, waiting for his reaction. When the message ended, silence filled the throne room. Finally, the Emperor spoke, his voice dangerously quiet. "Zelthar wants reinforcements. The greatest military commander in the Empire wants help defeating primitives who have barely left their own planet." "Your Majesty," began Lord Admiral Krenshak, "perhaps we underestimated—" "Silence," Vexcarian commanded. He stood, his massive frame casting long shadows across the marble floor. "The Empire does not underestimate. The Empire does not retreat. The Empire does not ask for help when facing a single backward world. But, Your Majesty, we have lost 50 ships," another advisor ventured carefully. "Then we will send 500 more," the Emperor declared. "Dispatch the 3rd and 9th fleets to the Sol system, and send a message to Zelthar. Tell him I expect these humans to be on their knees within 1 planetary cycle, or he will join them in chains." The order was given. Across the Empire's core worlds, 500 more warships prepared for departure. The greatest military mobilization in a generation, all directed at one small blue planet in a forgotten corner of the galaxy. On Earth, Admiral Chen watched the intelligence reports with growing concern. The spy satellites humanity had seeded throughout nearby systems were sending back data. "More ships. Many more ships. 500 additional vessels," Commander Park read from the report. "Combined with what's already here, we'll be facing 700 ships. Ma'am, we don't have the ammunition to fight that many." Chen looked at the holographic display showing Earth and its defensive positions. They had hurt the Empire, yes, but it had cost them 60% of their railgun ammunition and 40% of their missile reserves. Another battle like the first would leave them defenseless. Then we don't fight another battle like the first, she said calmly. Activate Protocol Chimera. It's time we showed them what we learned from all those years of fighting ourselves. Park's eyes widened. Ma'am, Chimera was supposed to be a last resort. Are you sure? Commander, we are at last resort, Chen replied. We always have been. The moment 700 alien warships entered our system, we were fighting for survival. Time to make them understand what that word means to humanity. Protocol Chimera had been developed in absolute secrecy over 30 years. The name came from the Greek legend of a creature that was part lion, part goat, and part snake, a monster made of different parts, each one deadly. It was an apt name for what humanity was about to do. The first part of the protocol was evacuation. Every human colony beyond Earth itself began emergency withdrawal procedures. Mars with its 3 million colonists, the asteroid belt stations, the mining outposts on Jupiter's moons. They had 48 hours to get everyone to ships and send them deeper into the Sol system, toward the inner planets where Earth's defenses were strongest. Are we abandoning the outer system? Park asked, watching the evacuation reports. No, Chen said with a slight smile. We're baiting a trap. The Empire thinks we're retreating in panic. Let them think that. Let them think they're winning. 72 hours after the first battle, the Empire's reinforcements arrived. Fleet Commander Zelthar watched on his viewscreen as 500 fresh warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel. He should have felt relieved. Instead, he felt only dread. Commander, Relmak reported, the humans are evacuating their outer colonies. Mars, the asteroid belt, all of them. They're running. Or they're luring us in, Zelthar muttered. I don't trust this. Sir, with all respect, they can't fight 700 ships, the tactical officer said. They hurt us because we weren't prepared. Now we are. Our shields have been reconfigured to better handle kinetic impacts. We've developed point defense protocols specifically for their railgun rounds. We have them outnumbered and outgunned. Zelthar wanted to believe that. He wanted to think the battle was won. But something about this felt wrong. In 47 conquests, he had learned to trust his instincts. And his instincts were screaming at him that this was a mistake. But the Emperor's orders were clear. Take the system. Crush the humans. Show the galaxy that the Empire was still supreme. Zelthar had no choice. All ships, he commanded. Advance on Mars. We take their colonies one by one until they have nowhere left to run. The massive fleet moved forward, a wall of warships that could have conquered half the galaxy. They reached Mars in 2 days of steady travel. The red planet hung before them, silent and seemingly abandoned. Scanning the surface, Relmak reported. I'm detecting minimal power signatures. A few automated systems still running. But no life signs. The humans really did evacuate. Take us into orbit, Zelthar ordered. Deploy landing parties to secure the colonial installations. I want to know what resources they left behind. The fleet entered orbit around Mars. Landing shuttles descended toward the empty human colonies. Soldiers in powered armor walked through abandoned streets, empty habitats, silent factories. Everything looked hastily abandoned but intact. This doesn't make sense, Relmak said, studying the sensor readings. Why leave all this infrastructure intact? Why not destroy it if they were retreating? Zelthar was asking himself the same question. In the back of his mind, Admiral Chen's words echoed. We've been expecting someone like you for a very long time. The answer came 30 minutes later. Every human structure on Mars exploded simultaneously. Not normal explosions, antimatter detonations. The colonies had been bombs disguised as settlements, and humanity had just detonated them all at once with enemy ships in orbit overhead. The blast wave tore through the Empire's fleet like a hurricane through paper. Ships that had survived the first battle were ripped apart. The massive release of energy created an electromagnetic pulse that fried electronic systems across the entire fleet. In seconds, the Empire lost 90 ships and another 100 were badly damaged. On Earth, Admiral Chen watched the detonation through long-range sensors. There was no satisfaction in her expression, only grim determination. The trap worked, Park said quietly. They fell for it. Phase 1 worked, Chen corrected. Now they know we're willing to destroy our own colonies to hurt them. That's going to make them more cautious, which is exactly what we want. A cautious enemy is a slower enemy. The asteroid belt facilities are next on their route, Park noted. Let them have it, Chen said. We've seeded more surprises there. Not antimatter this time. Something more personal. In what remained of the Empire's fleet near Mars, Zelthar surveyed the damage in numb shock. Nearly 100 ships destroyed. The survivors were badly shaken, and for the first time in his career, Zelthar heard something he never thought possible. Fear in his crew's voices. They destroyed their own colonies, Relmak whispered. They killed their own infrastructure just to hurt us. What kind of species does that? A species that's fighting for survival, Zelthar replied. A species that understands total war. A communication request came through from one of the other fleet commanders. Admiral Trencor of the Third Fleet appeared on screen, his face twisted with rage. Zelthar, your caution got my ships killed. We should have bombarded Mars from long range. Your arrogance got your ships killed, Zelthar shot back. I warned the Emperor these humans were dangerous. I warned everyone. No one listened. Then what do you suggest? Trencor demanded. We run away with our tails between our legs. Before Zelthar could answer, new alarm sounded. The communication officer's voice rose in panic. Commander, we're receiving a system-wide broadcast from Earth. All frequencies. What kind of broadcast? Zelthar asked, though he suspected he already knew. Information, the officer replied, his voice shaking. They're sending us their history. Everything. Wars, conflicts, weapons development, military tactics. It's hundreds of thousands of data files. The main view screen lit up with images. Human soldiers in trenches covered in mud, cities destroyed by bombs, mushroom clouds rising over burning landscapes, tanks rolling across battlefields, aircraft dropping fire from the sky, ships sinking into dark water, and through it all humans kept fighting. What is this? Trencor demanded. What are they trying to do? Admiral Chen's face appeared on every screen in the fleet. Greetings, Empire. I'm sending you a gift. Our complete military history. Every war we've ever fought. Every weapon we've ever built. Every tactic we've ever used. I want you to understand something very important. She paused, and her next words were delivered with absolute conviction. For 300,000 years, we have lived on a world that has tried to kill us in every way imaginable. Ice ages, volcanoes, earthquakes, diseases, predators, we survived them all. For the last 10,000 years, our greatest enemy has been ourselves. We have fought wars that killed hundreds of millions of our own people. We have built weapons that could destroy our entire world. We have looked into the abyss of extinction and said, not today. Images continued to flash across the screens. Soldiers fighting in snow, in jungles, in deserts, in cities. Children caught in war zones. Civilians fleeing burning homes. And through it all, humanity endured. You came to our system expecting us to surrender, Chen continued. You expected us to kneel before your empire. But you made one critical mistake. You assumed we were like other species you've conquered. We're not. We don't surrender. We don't kneel, we fight. And we're very, very good at it because we've had 300,000 years of practice. The broadcast ended, but the data kept coming. Military manuals, tactical analyses, engineering specifications for weapons. It was overwhelming, and it served a very specific psychological purpose. They're trying to break our morale, Relmak said, but his voice wavered. That's all this is. Psychological warfare. It's working, Zelthar admitted, watching his crew's faces. They were reading the files, seeing what humanity had done to itself, imagining what they might do to an outside enemy. They want us to understand that fighting them means fighting a species that has been at war for its entire existence. Orders, Commander? The tactical officer asked weakly. Zelthar looked at the blue planet hanging in the distance. Beautiful and terrible, home to 7 billion humans who refused to surrender. And he realized with growing horror that Captain Threnix had been right about everything. We continue, he said, because those were his orders. But slowly, carefully. We assume every structure, every ship, every asteroid they've touched is a potential weapon. We don't land on anything. We don't enter any enclosed spaces. We bombard from long range. That could take months, Trencor objected from his ship. Then it takes months, Zelthar replied. Because the alternative is walking into another trap and losing another 100 ships. The Emperor wants this world conquered. Fine, we'll conquer it. But we'll do it my way. Or I'm sending him back body counts instead of victory reports. In her command center, Admiral Chen allowed herself a small smile. The Empire had taken the bait at Mars. They had learned to fear humanity's willingness to destroy their own infrastructure. And now they were cautious, moving slowly, exactly as planned. How long can we hold them? Park asked. Long enough, Chen replied. Long enough for Phase 2. Long enough for the other colonies to complete their preparations. Long enough for the real war to begin. She looked at a classified file on her personal console. Project Ouroboros. The serpent that ate its own tail. Humanity's final contingency plan if all else failed. She hoped it wouldn't come to that. But if it did, the Empire would learn that humanity's capacity for destruction extended far beyond what they had already witnessed. The trap had sprung. The Empire was wounded and wary. But the war was far from over. Both sides were just beginning to understand what they had gotten themselves into. 3 weeks had passed since the Mars disaster. The Empire's fleet moved through the Sol system like a wounded predator, cautious now, checking every approach 3 times before committing. They had lost nearly 200 ships, and the humans had barely shown themselves for a direct fight. Fleet Commander Zelthar had aged years in those 3 weeks. He spent his nights reviewing reports, analyzing data, trying to understand an enemy that fought unlike anything he had encountered before. The humans didn't mass their forces. They didn't defend fixed positions. They just hurt the Empire wherever they could and disappeared like smoke. Another supply convoy destroyed, Relmak reported, exhaustion evident in his voice. Small strike craft hit them near Jupiter's orbit. 3 ships gone before our fighters could respond. Zelthar nodded numbly. It was the 7th convoy in 2 weeks. The humans had somehow turned their civilian spacecraft into deadly weapons. Small, fast ships that would approach on seemingly innocent trajectories, then accelerate to attack speed and fire their weapons before vanishing into the asteroid belt or the gas giant's magnetosphere where sensors couldn't track them effectively. The crews are getting nervous, Relmak continued quietly. They're calling the humans ghosts. Some are saying this system is cursed. It's not cursed, Zelthar said tiredly. It's just defended by people who have been fighting longer than our empire has existed. How's fleet morale? Relmak hesitated. 14 ships have reported discipline problems, fights, refusals to follow orders. 3 captains have requested to be relieved of command. In 3 decades of service, Zelthar had never heard of such things. The Empire's military was built on absolute discipline, but that discipline was cracking under the weight of constant losses and an enemy they could never quite pin down. A communication alert sounded. Commander, we're receiving a signal from the inner asteroid belt. It's from the humans. They want to talk. Put it through, Zelthar ordered. Maybe finally they were ready to negotiate. A human face appeared on the screen. Not Admiral Chen this time, but a younger man with bright eyes and a confident smile. Hello, Empire. I'm Commander Michael Torres, currently aboard the strike craft Dancing Spider. Just wanted to let you know that minefield you tried to cross? Yeah, you lost 4 more ships. Sorry about that. Not really. The screen cut out before anyone could respond. It had been a taunt. Pure psychological warfare. Find that transmission source. Zelthar ordered. I want that ship destroyed. But even as he said it, he knew it was futile. The humans would be long gone, and chasing them into the asteroid belt would mean more losses to hidden weapons and traps. Admiral Trencor's face appeared on a private channel. Zelthar, this is insane. We're losing ships every day and we're not even close to Earth. I'm recommending to the Emperor that we withdraw and glass the planet from long range. Turn it into molten rock and be done with it. The Emperor wants the planet intact, Zelthar replied. It has resources, water, an ecosystem. He wants to colonize it after we eliminate the humans. Then the Emperor is a fool, Trencor said, and immediately looked shocked at his own words. Criticizing the Emperor was treason. But weeks of losses had eroded more than just discipline. Zelthar should have reported Trencor immediately. Instead, he found himself agreeing. Perhaps, but we have our orders. After Trencor disconnected, Zelthar made a decision that would likely end his career if anyone found out. He opened a secure channel to the Galactic Council, using encryption codes he wasn't supposed to have. Counselor Brenda's face appeared, her alien features showing concern. Commander Zelthar, this is unexpected and highly irregular. I need the Council to intercede, Zelthar said without preamble. I need you to convince the Emperor to negotiate with the humans. This war is destroying my fleet and accomplishing nothing. The Empire does not negotiate with primitives, Brenda replied gently. Your Emperor has made that clear. These are not primitives. Zelthar's voice rose. They're the most dangerous species I've ever encountered. They fight like demons. They turn everything into a weapon. They're willing to sacrifice anything to defend their home. And my soldiers are dying for an arrogant emperor's pride. Then withdraw, Brenda suggested. I can't. The emperor would execute me and send another commander. And that commander would face the same situation. Someone needs to end this before it becomes something worse. Something worse than what's already happening? Brenda asked. Zelthar was quiet for a long moment. The humans have weapons they haven't used yet. I've been analyzing their broadcasts, their history. They've hinted at things, shown us fragments, but I think they're holding back their worst options. If we push them too far, he didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. Both he and Brenda understood that a species willing to destroy its own colonies might be willing to do much worse. I will try, Brenda promised. But I cannot guarantee the Emperor will listen. He has never backed down from a fight. Then we're all doomed, Zelthar said quietly, and closed the channel. On Earth, Admiral Chen was conducting a meeting with the Combined Defense Forces senior staff. The holographic display showed the Empire's fleet positions, updated in real time by their spy satellites. They're moving more cautiously now, Commander Park noted. Our hit-and-run tactics are working. We've destroyed 40 more ships in the last 3 weeks with minimal losses on our side. But they're still coming, Chen replied.
Slowly, yes.
Carefully, yes, but they're not leaving. And we're running out of surprises. We have Project Ouroboros, someone suggested. That's the final option, Chen said firmly. If we use that, there's no going back. We need to escalate, but not to extinction level. Not yet. She pulled up a new file. Tactical recommends we move to Phase 3, active fleet engagement, but on our terms. We've been studying their patterns, their tactics, their weaknesses. It's time to hit them where it really hurts. Their supply lines, Park realized. We've been picking at them, but you want to cut them off completely? Exactly. The Empire's fleet is thousands of light years from home. They need supply ships bringing them fuel, ammunition, food, parts. If we destroy enough of those ships, they'll have to choose between withdrawing or starving to death out here. That means exposing our fleet to direct combat, another officer warned. Controlled combat, Chen corrected. We fight on our terms, in our territory, using our advantages. We make them pay for every meter they advance. And we show them that humanity doesn't just fight to survive. We fight to win. The plan was approved. Over the next week, humanity's military fleet, which had been hiding in the inner system, began to move. Not all at once, not in formation, but in small groups, coordinated through quantum communication networks the Empire couldn't intercept. The first strike came at a supply convoy near Saturn. 20 human fighters appeared from the rings where they had been hiding among ice particles. The convoy's escort tried to respond, but the humans were already firing. Within minutes, 5 supply ships were destroyed and the fighters had vanished back into the rings. The second strike came 12 hours later at a different supply route, then a third, then a fourth. The Empire's logistics network began to collapse under the sustained attacks. We need fighter escorts on every convoy, Admiral Trencor insisted during a fleet-wide strategy meeting. This is unacceptable. We don't have enough fighters, another commander objected. Every ship we assign to convoy duty is a ship we can't use for the advance. Then we don't advance, Zelthar said quietly. All conversation stopped. We hold position. We consolidate. We focus on defense until supply lines are secured. The Emperor will not accept that, Trencor warned. The Emperor is not here watching his soldiers die, Zelthar shouted, his control finally breaking. The Emperor is sitting in his palace, safe and comfortable, ordering us to conquer a world that cannot be conquered, these humans. They're not fighting for glory or conquest. They're fighting for their survival. And there is nothing more dangerous in the universe than a species fighting for its life. The other commanders stared at him in shocked silence. Finally, one of them spoke. Commander, that sounded very much like treason. Then report me, Zelthar said wearily. Report me to the Emperor. Tell him I said his pride is killing our people. Tell him I said this war is unwinnable. And when he sends you to replace me, you can watch the humans destroy your fleet too. No one reported him, because deep down they all knew he was right. On the Imperial dominance, discipline continued to erode. Crew members whispered in corridors. Some refused to go on patrol. A fistfight broke out in the mess hall when one soldier called another a coward for expressing fear of the humans. Relmak found Zelthar in his quarters, staring at the blue planet that had become his nightmare. "Commander, we've received orders from the Empire. The Emperor has heard your report about supply problems. He's ordering us to execute any crew member who shows cowardice or refuses orders. Immediately. As an example to others." Zelthar closed his eyes. "How many soldiers has he ordered me to kill?" "Currently, we have 43 crew members in detention for various discipline infractions. Under his order, they would all be executed." 43 of our own people," Zelthar whispered. "Because they're afraid. Because they don't want to die in a pointless war. And the Emperor thinks killing them will improve morale." "Commander, what are your orders?" Zelthar was silent for a long time. Finally, he spoke. "I'm countermanding the Emperor's order. Release everyone from detention with a warning, and send a message to all ships. Any captain who executes their crew will answer to me personally." "That's direct disobedience," Relmak said, but there was relief in his voice. "I know, but I won't kill my own people for the Emperor's arrogance. I've already lost too many to the humans. I won't lose more to stupidity." The message spread through the fleet within hours. Fleet Commander Zelthar had defied the Emperor. The response was mixed. Some commanders were horrified. Others were quietly grateful. But all of them recognized that something fundamental had broken in the Empire's command structure. In his throne room, Emperor Vexkarian read Zelthar's response with cold fury. His advisor stood nearby, nervous and sweating. "The fleet commander refuses my orders," the Emperor said quietly. "He protects cowards and questions my judgment. This is unacceptable. Your Majesty, perhaps if we considered—" "Silence," Vexkarian commanded. "Send the 4th Fleet to the Sol system. When they arrive, they are to relieve Zelthar of command and place him under arrest. He will be brought back to the Empire to face trial for treason. Your Majesty, the 4th Fleet is needed to patrol the border worlds. If we send them to Sol—" "Do it!" the Emperor roared. "I will not tolerate disobedience. I will not show weakness before these humans. The Empire will be victorious because I command it." But command and reality were two different things, and reality was rapidly proving that the Emperor's arrogance had led the Empire into a war it could not win without sacrificing its very identity. In the Sol system, Admiral Chen received intelligence about the new fleet being sent. She called her staff together. "They're sending more ships," she announced, "and they're coming to arrest their own commander because he tried to be reasonable. This is both good and bad news. Good because it shows the Empire is fracturing from within. Bad because desperate enemies are unpredictable." "What do we do?" Park asked. Chen smiled grimly. "We continue to make them pay for their arrogance. And we prepare Project Ouroboros, just in case. Because if they're sending more ships instead of negotiating, they're not getting the message. So we'll make it louder." The 4th Fleet arrived in the Sol system 6 weeks after the first battle. 300 fresh warships commanded by Admiral Kreshenal, a loyalist known for his absolute obedience to the Emperor. His orders were clear. Arrest Zelthar, take, command and crush the human resistance by any means necessary. Fleet Commander Zelthar watched the new ships arrive with a mixture of relief and resignation. Relief because his battered fleet desperately needed reinforcements. Resignation because he knew what was coming. "Commander," Relmak said quietly, "Admiral Kreshenal is hailing us. He's requesting you transferred to his flagship for a strategy meeting." "He's not requesting," Zelthar replied. "He's arresting me. It's fine. I knew this was coming. Sir, the crew. They'll resist. You saved their lives by refusing the Emperor's execution order. They're loyal to you." "Which is exactly why I'm going to surrender peacefully," Zelthar said. He stood, straightening his uniform. "If I resist, people will die. More of our people. I've had enough death. Maybe whoever replaces me will do better." 2 hours later, Zelthar stood in chains aboard Kreshenal's flagship, the Fist of Empire. The new admiral circled him like a predator examining prey. "You've disappointed the Emperor," Kreshnal said. "You've lost hundreds of ships. You've disobeyed direct orders. You've expressed doubt in the Empire's ability to win. These are grave crimes." "The gravest crime," Zelthar replied quietly, "is sending soldiers to die for an arrogant ruler's pride. I have nothing to apologize for." Kreshnal struck him across the face. "You will learn respect. You will be transported back to the Empire for trial and execution. But first I want you to watch. Watch as I succeed where you failed. Watch as I crush these humans and prove that the Empire is still supreme. You're making a mistake," Zelthar said, blood running from his split lip. "These humans are not like other species. I know what they are," Kreshnal interrupted. "I've read all your reports. Yes, they hurt you. Yes, they fought well. But you were too cautious, too afraid. I will show them overwhelming force. I will show them that the Empire cannot be defeated by tricks and traps." Zelthar was dragged away to the brig. As the door closed behind him, he whispered to the empty room, "You're all going to die." Admiral Kreshnal wasted no time. He gathered the combined fleet, now numbering over 900 ships, and began a direct advance on Earth itself. No more careful probing. No more caution. A straight assault. Shields at maximum. Weapons ready. On Earth, alarms blared across every military installation. Admiral Chen watched the approaching fleet with cold calculation. 900 ships, Commander Park said, his voice tight. "Ma'am, we don't have enough ammunition to stop that many, even with all our remaining defenses." "I know," Chen replied. She pulled up a classified file, one that had been locked away since the war began. "Project Ouroboros, the final option. Get me the president. It's time for the civilian government to make a decision." 30 minutes later, she was on a secure video call with the president of the United Earth government and the leaders of every major nation. Their faces were grim. "You're asking for authorization to use the Ouroboros protocol," the president said. "Admiral, you understand what that means, what it will cost." "I do, ma'am," Chen replied. "But the Empire is coming with everything they have. If we don't stop them here, Earth falls. Humanity falls. This is our last chance." "Explain it to us one more time," requested the Premier of the Asian Coalition. "What exactly does this protocol do?" Chen took a deep breath. "Project Ouroboros is a network of self-replicating autonomous weapons, von Neumann machines. We launch them at the Empire's fleet. They begin consuming damaged or disabled ships, using the raw materials to build more of themselves. Within hours, one machine becomes 10, 10 becomes 100, 100 becomes 1,000. They multiply exponentially, and we can control them?" asked the president. "Yes. They have a hard-coded shutdown sequence. But ma'am, if we use this weapon, we're crossing a line. We're unleashing something that could potentially threaten the entire galaxy if it ever got out of control. Other civilizations will fear us even more than they already do." "But it will save Earth?" "It will save Earth," Chen confirmed. "The machines will consume the Empire's fleet. And once the Empire sees what we're capable of, they'll never come back." The leaders conferred quietly. Finally, the president spoke. "Admiral Chen, you have authorization to deploy Project Ouroboros. God help us all." Chen closed the channel and turned to her staff. "Launch the Ouroboros platforms, all of them. Target the Empire's approaching fleet." From hidden facilities on Earth's ocean floors, sealed chambers that had been built in absolute secrecy, the machines emerged. They looked like simple metallic spheres, each about the size of a car. There were only 50 of them, but 50 would be enough. They launched on chemical rockets, old technology that the Empire's sensors barely registered as a threat. The machines drifted toward the advancing fleet, unpowered, appearing like debris. Admiral Kreshnal didn't even notice them. His attention was focused on Earth itself, on the missile platforms and defense stations that were his real targets. "All ships prepare to fire. We glass their defensive positions first, then the planet itself." "Admiral," his sensor officer called out, I'm detecting some debris approaching our formation. Looks like wreckage from previous battles. Ignore it, Kreshenal ordered. Focus on the primary targets. The 50 Ouroboros machines drifted into the fleet's formation. Then, simultaneously, they activated. Cutting lasers extended. Manipulator arms unfolded. They attached themselves to the nearest damaged ships, vessels that had been wounded in previous encounters with the humans. Admiral, the sensor officer screamed. Those debris objects, they're machines. They're cutting into our damaged ships. Kreshenal watched in horror as the machines began to disassemble a crippled destroyer, taking it apart piece by piece with frightening efficiency. Destroy them, all weapons. But it was already too late. The machines worked fast, and they had been designed by humans who understood efficiency. Within 20 minutes, the first Ouroboros machine had consumed enough material to build a copy of itself. Now there were 51 machines, then 52, then 54. The multiplication accelerated. An hour later, there were 200 machines. 2 hours later, 1,000. They spread through the fleet like a disease, consuming disabled ships, damaged vessels, anything that couldn't run or fight back effectively. Get us out of here, Kreshenal ordered. All ships retreat. Full speed! But the machines were already everywhere. They didn't pursue the fleeing ships. They didn't need to. They simply continued their work, taking apart the wounded, the slow, the unlucky. And with each ship they consumed, they built more of themselves. In his cell aboard the Fist of Empire, Zelthar heard the alarms and felt the ship accelerate. He knew what it meant. Kreshenal had failed just as he had warned. The humans had played their final card. A guard rushed past his cell and Zelthar called out, "What's happening?" The guard, young and terrified, stopped. "Machines, sir." "Human machines. They're eating our ships. They're multiplying. We've lost over 300 vessels in 2 hours." Zelthar closed his eyes. 300 ships. More losses in 2 hours than he had suffered in 2 months. And the machines would keep building, keep spreading unless someone stopped them. "Does Admiral Kreshenal have a plan?" he asked. "He's calling for full retreat," the guard replied. "Back to Empire space. Away from this cursed system. Then go," Zelthar said quietly. "Go while you still can." The Empire's fleet fled the Sol system in complete disarray. Behind them, the Ouroboros machines continued their work, consuming the wreckage of battle, growing their numbers. But they didn't pursue. They simply waited, a mechanical swarm guarding humanity's home. Admiral Kreshenal stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the blue planet recede into the distance. Of the 900 ships he had commanded, only 400 remained. The rest were destroyed, disabled, or currently being consumed by those terrible machines. "Send a message to the Emperor," he said, his voice hollow. Tell him the Sol system cannot be taken. The humans have weapons beyond our ability to counter. Recommend immediate cessation of hostilities and diplomatic negotiations." His communication officer stared at him. "Admiral, that's the truth," Kreshenal interrupted. "And the Emperor needs to hear it before he sends more soldiers to their deaths." In his cell, Zelthar smiled grimly. Kreshenal had learned in hours what had taken Zelthar weeks to accept. The Empire had met its match. For the first time in 3,000 years, the Empire had truly lost. On Earth, Admiral Chen broadcast a final message to the retreating fleet. "This is Admiral Sarah Chen of Earth. You came to our home seeking conquest. We showed you why that was a mistake. The machines you encountered can be shut down by us at any time. We control them, absolutely. But we wanted you to see what we're capable of, what we're willing to unleash if pushed too far." She paused, then continued. "We don't want war. We never did. We want to live in peace in our own system. But if you force us to fight, we will use everything we have, everything, and we have weapons you haven't seen yet. Weapons even worse than what you've encountered. So take this message back to your Emperor. Leave us alone or face extinction." The broadcast ended. The Empire's fleet continued its retreat. And behind them, at Chen's command, the Ouroboros machines deactivated and returned to Earth. She had told the truth. Humanity controlled them completely. But the Empire didn't need to know how close those machines had come to gaining independence, how carefully they had been programmed, how dangerous they truly were. 6 months later, the Galactic Council received 2 delegations. The first was from the Zalthoran Empire, requesting mediation and peace negotiations. The second was from humanity, requesting recognition as a sovereign species with full rights and protections under galactic law. Counselor Brenda looked at both delegations and felt something she rarely experienced: hope. "I believe we can arrange an agreement acceptable to both parties." The negotiations took weeks. The Empire was represented by a new ambassador, not Admiral Crescenal or the disgraced Zelthar. The Emperor himself remained silent, nursing his wounded pride in his palace. For humanity, Admiral Chen led the delegation, accompanied by diplomats who had been hastily trained in galactic protocol. The final agreement was simple. The Sol system would be recognized as human sovereign territory, with a 10-light-year exclusion zone that no military vessels could enter without permission. In exchange, humanity would not expand beyond their system for 25 years, giving the galaxy time to adjust to their presence. The Ouroboros machines would remain deactivated, and humanity would not share the technology with any other species. Both sides agreed. The war was over. 10 years later, the Sol system looked very different. Human ships now traveled to nearby stars, exploring, trading, making contact with other species. But they came in peace, and they brought gifts of technology, art, and friendship. The galaxy learned that humanity was capable of more than just violence. They were also capable of incredible compassion, creativity, and cooperation. Species that had feared them during the war now sought them as allies. The humans had a unique perspective, having come from a death world and survived countless self-inflicted catastrophes. They understood struggle in ways other species couldn't. Earth became known throughout the galaxy as the world that had humbled the Empire. The warning beacons that had once said "stay away" were replaced with new messages: humanity, approach with respect. In the Empire itself, things had changed dramatically. The war with humanity had exposed the rot at the Empire's core. Vassal states, emboldened by the Empire's defeat, began demanding independence. Some were granted it. Others had to fight. But the Empire that had ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years was crumbling, brought down not by military defeat alone, but by the realization that arrogance and force could not solve every problem. Emperor Vexicarian was deposed in a peaceful coup. The new government, a council of representatives from various worlds, immediately began diplomatic outreach to species the Empire had oppressed. They sought to rebuild the Empire's reputation, to transform it from a conqueror to a partner, and they sent a formal apology to Earth Admiral Chen, now retired and serving as Earth's ambassador to the Galactic Council. Received the apology in a private ceremony. The Empire's representative, a young diplomat who hadn't even been born when the war started, bowed deeply. "We are sorry," she said simply. "Our arrogance cost hundreds of thousands of lives. Both ours and yours. We should have listened to the warnings." "Yes," Chen agreed. "You should have. But you learned. That's what matters. What you do with that lesson determines whether those lives were wasted." The diplomat nodded. "We're trying to be better, to learn from our mistakes. Will humanity forgive us?" Chen considered the question. She thought of the soldiers lost in battle, the colonies destroyed, the years of fear and struggle. "Forgiveness takes time," she said finally. "But we can start with understanding, and maybe eventually friendship." It was a small beginning, but all great changes started small. 25 years after the war, a human ship arrived at the Galactic Council headquarters. It carried ambassadors, scientists, teachers, and artists. They came not as warriors, but as partners. They brought innovations in technology, insights in medicine, and perspectives on philosophy. Counselor Brenda, now elderly but still serving, greeted them personally. "Welcome," she said. "The galaxy has been waiting for you." "We've been waiting too," replied the human ambassador. "Waiting to show you that we're more than just fighters. Waiting to prove that a species from a death world can contribute more than just violence." And they did. Over the following decades, humanity became known as the species that bridged divides. They mediated conflicts because they understood both sides of war. They helped struggling civilizations because they knew what it meant to struggle. They pushed the boundaries of science because curiosity was in their nature. The Empire's warning had been right. Earth was a trap, but not the kind of trap they had imagined. It was a trap for arrogance, for assumptions, for the belief that might made right. It was a reminder that the universe was full of surprises, and that the most dangerous species was often the one you underestimated. Admiral Sarah Chen, in her final years, wrote a memoir about the war. The last line became famous across the galaxy. We showed them the stick because we had to. We showed them we could walk softly because we wanted to. The question was never whether humanity would survive. The question was whether we would let others survive alongside us. We chose kindness, but we never forgot the stick. The memoir was required reading in military academies across a dozen species. A reminder that the greatest strength wasn't in weapons or numbers, but in knowing when to fight and when to extend a hand in friendship. Earth remained what it had always been. A beautiful, terrible world that created a beautiful, terrible species. But humanity had proven that terrible didn't mean evil. It meant strong. It meant resilient. It meant capable of both great destruction and great creation. And the galaxy was better for having humans in it, even if they had arrived with fire and thunder.